Every time you do that, I just want to
Welcome to Geeks in Space. Please enjoy listening to Chris fill up his water bottle.
Oh, I thought that was Nate relieving himself.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Hey, I'm Rob Commander Taco Malda, and I'm here today with a full panel. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves quickly so we can get to breaking news.
All right.
I'm Rob RobRobChrisJeff.
I'm Jeff.
Nate.
We have the gravity on because you can hear.
I'm Nate, inventor of the Desk Urinal.
Well, I don't know about inventor, but master for sure.
For sure.
The first commercially viable one, I might.
Wow. I'm Chris.
Write it down.
Much personal stake.
We're all investors.
So yeah, did I say this is episode 378 of Geeks in Space?
I don't know.
I want you guys to say it's episode 378 of Geeks in Space.
I would really like it if Jake could tell us if I remembered to say that. So Bloomberg and the New York Times are now detecting incognito mode.
Yeah.
Big shock. I actually, there was a couple of stories that I had recently about browser fingerprint IDing. And that I just wanted to share this anecdote because I find this tremendously amusing. But back in the day, we used to have a bunch of people who would munge their user agents because they felt that the user agent was a violation of privacy. Like, I don't want you to know that I'm running Internet Explorer 4 or whatever it was you're running in 1999. But there was a guy who changed his user agent to something to the effect of "Don't track me," which instantly made his user agent the single most identifiable user agent in the entirety of our logging system, and made him the most trackable user ever.
Yep.
Now, I remember we would see people, don't track me, Nazis, don't track me, fascists, exclamation point 11T1, exclamation point. And I'm like, oh, look, it's don't track me 11D1 guy again.
My favorite is that then when you would go into the Google Analytics reporting, and you would do sorting on user agent string, if it were because all those people who type out sentences in there, they would show near the top then every time.
Yeah.
That your attempt to be anonymized has made you completely identifiable. And yeah.
The least anonymous person on our system is the guy who says, I want to be anonymous. I don't need cookies to track you, you dumb poopy head.
It turns out that screaming, "Stop looking at me" inside a crowded theater is not a viable way to hide yourself.
So when we were young and we were only, say, 20 episodes into this, there was a paper out of Linux Care. Remember that place? Linux Care that
was tied.
Yeah. Non-consensual user tracking. And basically it was a way of fingerprinting caches to identify users independent of cookies. So yeah, it was quite a paper, let me just say. I don't know if it still works, but it was really pretty interesting. And awful, but interesting.
No, I always wanted to tell that story. Someday we should go into the nightmares that are cat food, but let's not do that today. The ultimate in weird privacy issues. Hey, Astrophotography coming to the Pixel 4. Google employees, feel free not to comment.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a leak that supposedly the Pixel 4 is going to be able to compete possibly with Chris. As a non-Google question, didn't Canon have a astrophotography sensor in like a Canon 7D, like somewhere around that era? Like they had a 7S or something.
That's a good question. I think that the RAW mode in a lot of the very higher end DSLRs lend themselves really well for astrophotography. I mean,
but there specifically was a Canon camera that actually was released with, and this is maybe like
handheld or tripod.
Yeah,
without a telescope. Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to you need a RAW mode. You need, maybe a little bit of smartness to not try to interpolate pixels. Because so in the dusty past, I worked on a line imager for a satellite, and we were literally counting photons for photos. Like, we would need 9 photons to get a reading off the CCD, individual elements. So, we had to address the CCDs directly. I mean, we weren't like, saying, give me the image. It was really something.
I have to assume that a 2019 cell phone camera sensor is not substantially bigger in whatever is coming out in the next generation of phone than the last version. I mean, bigger by, 20%. I have to assume that the astrophotography-ness of this has as much to do with machine learning and image processing as it does actual sensor capability. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm really interested in that. I mean, it's kind of related to all the weird stuff they do now where we don't have to think about the size of our telescope mirrors anymore because we just put like 4 mirrors on Earth on different corners and then average 4 mirrors. And somehow we're like, okay, well, now we have a lens that's like the size of Earth. It's kind of neat.
Well, so also, I should probably write this before I talk about it. But like, imagine, if you will, when you do a selfie at night and you've got the stars behind you, you could use that as a star tracker and get a really accurate position from that.
What about if you move the stars? What about if you move the stars
into a picture from a satellite? You can accurately measure the effectiveness of the satellite.
Okay, you were talking at the same time, so
it's all right. I'm done talking.
You're in the same
now it's Jeff's turn.
/ time zone. Jeff, what were you saying?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's off doing work. All right.
No, I was just checking to see if where Brexit is at, because now it looks like they're about to riot.
Oh, cool.
We saw that the French were like, we'll give you an extension, but for 2 years, not for like a day. So they're like, we'll give you an extension for 2 years potentially if our listener doesn't care about Brexit though.
Poor Jake.
Poor Jake.
Maybe.
I always feel bad for the guy.
Maybe Jake's in Britain, the great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
So the New York Post has a photo of Brian Epstein that has a PGP key embedded in it.
Brian Epstein? Who's Brian Epstein?
Brian Epstein. I assume the billionaire, not the Beatles producer.
Isn't
that's Jeffrey.
Jeff Epstein.
Yeah. So I don't know who you're talking about.
Brian,
you are confusing.
All Epsteins are basically the same.
Well, this is the thing. All throughout this, I keep on thinking.
Are you anti-Semitic?
No, I was thinking back to that TV show where the kid who would show up for school and say, yes, here's a note from my mother, Mrs. Epstein. And it would say, please let my son out of school, signed Mrs. Epstein. I'm like, is this the same Epstein?
Okay, so it was Jeff Epstein, not Brian Epstein. I'm not talking about the...
What story? You think that Epstein is the whale?
Oh.
Yes, Epstein is probably the whale. No, Epstein, there's a PGP key embedded in pictures in the New York Times of Epstein, which is really weird, and I haven't heard a good reason why.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for the so what part of that story as well, and couldn't perceive it.
Yeah.
Are they doing that for like some weird watermarking or something?
I mean, that's the best I could see.
All right. No, I found it. It's some rando researcher who has claimed that there are. Yes, it is a researcher who has published. I found keys in the pictures. Keys, yeah, but it doesn't sound like anyone else has actually been able to verify that they're in there.
So it's fake news?
This is wishful steganography, basically.
Yeah, it's wishful news.
I can't believe that got on Taco Zone.
Man, there's really a fallen ever since I made it.
Yeah.
You know who I blame? Brian Epstein.
Yep.
If he hadn't produced Abbey Road, this never would have happened.
Wait, Brian Epstein produced Brian? No, wait, that was George Martin.
The researcher who published this goes by Luke Sly Talker and the Force. I think you need to review Rob's standards.
Is that his Christian name or just his handle?
Listen, he got a doctorate from Trump University. It means something.
And his postgrad at Liberty U.
Oh my gosh. I can't even talk about this. All right, let's keep going.
So Paul Allen's yacht is for sale.
Which one?
The octopus, the one that has the submarine.
It famously also has a teak deck that you can't wear shoes on.
Listen, I met Paul Allen. So I just like to confirm a couple of things. So I asked him if he was the one who purchased the Battlestar Galactica Stealth Viper from auction. He was not. And I thought it had to have been him, right? Because it was in Vancouver. I figured he'd bring it down to the museum. Boom. No. I'm very upset. Because he owns a Viper from the original show. He didn't buy the Stealth Viper.
On target.
It was super cool.
Stay on target.
Why don't we pool our resources and pick it up? I mean, we can certainly lease it out during the season.
Battlestar Galactica themed birthday parties. That's a thing, right?
Wait, are we buying Battlestar Galactica Vipers, or are we buying Paul Allen's yacht?
Oh no, the yacht. The yacht.
Well, I mean, I didn't learn to fly a helicopter onto a yacht's helipad for nothing, Rob Malda.
Right.
Why are you devaluing Chris's skills so much?
Honestly, I'm going to watch him land maybe 10 times while I hold a Mai Tai in my hand before I'm willing to sit in the helicopter with him.
I'm still trying to remember. There was a big a British magazine publisher who died a few years ago, and his obit was in The Economist, and he's the one who coined the line, and this is relevant to yachts: if it flies, floats, or F's, look, I'm avoiding an NSFW, then rent, don't buy, which I think is
right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really. I just really like the idea that if you become a cajillionaire off of Microsoft money, that your thing that you do is build a $300 million yacht with a tiny submarine in it. Like, that's super villain, mad, insane, kind of awesome.
How else do you get to the king under your... Yeah.
They're kind of hard to park. There's only some ports. You basically need a cruise ship port, a deep water port to have these things. So you end up having to ride like the little yacht out of the garage into.
I believe those are called a launch. Is the word that you're looking for?
Yes, you have to have a little
or
in
tenders.
Your toy garage. Yeah, or tenders.
Tenders work as well, Jeff.
I like chicken tenders.
Yep. Although I think isn't tender more for a ship? I don't know. Let's find out.
No, let's not. So there's 7 crew on this thing. Think of that.
We really don't want to bore Jake.
Right. Jake.
Man, Jake.
Captain Jake to you.
So I don't know that this is like something that's a good conversation article, but it is actually worth reading. There's a GitHub page which is dumb password rules. And it is actually really amusing to look through the list of like these rules that systems have thought of. Like you're required to use punctuation, but you can't use hyphens and stuff like that. Like it's some of these rules are just crazy, and it cracks me up.
Well, I think that you mean that it cracks you up to the degree that it's 8 or more characters containing at least one number and not containing a percentage character, which makes you think they're not sanitizing their input.
That is how they sanitize their input. If you can do percents, then you start getting you're able to access the template variables.
That's right. So really, they're sanitizing it with the honor system.
Well, if you can't trust the internet, who can you trust?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
Yep.
The internet, after all, is just people.
It's just people, man, and people are pretty good.
I do have actually very strong feelings about password rules like that. Like, for example, any password that contains both like I's and ones, and you are making me read it off of a TV screen. Like, there's a special place in hell for you.
L's, lowercase L.
If you actually in this day and age, if you actually make your passwords and memorize them, you're doing it wrong. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
obviously,
so
we all generate very long random strings for our own passwords.
We don't generate, our browsers do, our tools
exactly.
like Password do.
I use 1Password. Do you guys use Chrome's built-in thing?
I mostly use Chrome's built-in thing. I also have a LastPassword account for a corporate thing, not Google corporate, different corporate.
I use KeyPass because it's open source.
And therefore, you can trust it.
Mm-hmm.
1Password makes me angry because I feel like I have to keep buying it again. I don't understand how that.
It's called a software subscription, Rob.
No, it's just like I bought it, and then like they told me that I had to buy it from the App Store, and then they told me that they weren't using the App Store maybe, and I had to buy it on my Mac. I just feel like I'm always buying a copy of LastPassword or of 1Password.
Probably
I don't.
Are
like
you then installing Kaspersky antivirus?
I probably should have that.
No.
Rob is very loyal to Norton.
Yep.
Oh gosh,
McAfee.
I'm a McAfee man myself.
I literally turned down speaking at an event. They really wanted me to speak, and I was like, and it was going to be McAfee than me, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, yeah, no, just no.
It's hard to follow. It's hard to follow that guy.
Why don't you book this Jeffrey Epstein fella?
A lot of energy, that fella. A lot of energy.
I mean, really, Epstein.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It's true. Bath salts.
Maybe the guy that just transferred $1 billion of Bitcoin is the one that's buying Paul's yacht.
Right?
Where do you cash out $1 billion of Bitcoin?
Therein lies the question.
Yeah, don't. If you tried to cash out more than like, I don't know, 100 grand, it probably craters the value of BTC. You know?
I think you have to go to One World Government Headquarters.
.com.
.com. Oh, they got a website finally.
Yeah.
That or the Republic of Texas.
They used to be like a .to domain, and I never was sure if I could trust that.
Hey, I was driving through Northern California in the last couple of weeks, and I just heard about Jeffersonia.
Oh, you just heard about Jeffersonia?
Yeah.
Dude, man, those people are wackadoos.
Well, apparently they put lots of highway signs up on rural Northern California roads about how it's time to make a 51st state.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, visit a brother. Second of all, Jeffersonia is like it's like guns and God and individual freedoms and probably racism. You know.
Oh, this is like the Michigan equivalent of the folks who want to split off from the Lower Peninsula and make the state of Superior.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, so I should point out, I'm actually not against the idea of having smaller states. Like California is 1/10 the population of the country, and and our votes don't count as much. I'd be okay with splitting it up, honestly. That'd be fine. I'm cool with it. Well,
what do you think about the electoral pact? I
think it's great.
I mean, obviously, stuff like that doesn't actually work, but it's a cool solution to the problem.
Are we talking about the same thing where basically individual states have said, we'll dump the electoral college when enough people dump it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's fine.
I mean, it just won't hold up in court because all you need is one state to get locked in their Supreme Court, for the whole thing to be stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. But we could dream that we would live in a democracy.
Let's talk about gerrymandering. No.
Well, it's very important to Jake. No, so Jeffersonia. So there's this idea of the great nation of Cascadia, which basically stretches from Alaska all the way down to Baja, right? And so so Jeffersonia is like a subset of Cascadia because it's like part of Oregon and part of Northern California, and it's basically all the pot growing regions, frankly, of the states. So yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, California especially always struck me as the state where that actually makes the most sense, because the difference between everything from Los Angeles to San Francisco and the entire rest of the state is pretty amazing.
So, I really like California. I like living here. It's above here, and
down there,
Los Angeles, San Diego, Sacramento. We have some amazing cities. Like, if these cities existed anywhere else in the country, they'd be like the capital or the important city. But it's like, Los Angeles alone, you think of it as one city, but it's like this huge sprawl of like really interesting little sub-cities that technically are one city. Anyway, I don't need to go on about California.
But all I'm saying, I guess, is that really is a state with a split personality.
More than you know. Northern, Southern, Fresno. Fresno is so different, but it's more like Bakersfield, but Sacramento sort of splits the difference. And then you have, it's really something. Once you go north of Sacramento, it's wackadoo.
Once you get a city of sufficient size, I think that's probably true everywhere. I mean, certainly the suburbs of Detroit are different than the UP.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you could almost draw a line at Lansing, and say everything above and below, because one is essentially the Rust Belt and the other is essentially wild land.
Bring it back to nerd stuff. So Weird City, the whole thing is you have above and below the line. And it's basically a cast difference. And it's actually a pretty funny show. It's on YouTube Originals, so no one will ever see it. But it's actually pretty. It's Jordan Peele did it. It's super wacky, but it's good. So
What's it called?
It's called Weird City.
Okay.
They show it for free sometimes on YouTube.
Huh. All right.
I finished Dark Crystal.
And
how was it?
As it went on, I enjoyed it more.
I saw a British actress who looked like a Dark Crystal character when I was in London last week. Seriously, I was in customs and
like a Skeksis or a Gelfling.
She had a super pointy chin, and a really wide face, and it was kind of short. I mean, she was gorgeous, right? I mean, just off the charts.
Oh, so not Ogra.
So not Ogra, or whatever that is. I don't know what that is, but I was like, she looks like a Dark Crystal character. It was super weird.
Anyway, the show gets better as the episodes go on. They do a really good job of having a good deep mythology. The problem for the show is really the tonal problem. These are puppets, and sometimes they're doing dark stuff, and it's really hard to get that. Because some of the shots work really well, and some of the shots you're just like, "Ooh, you look like a puppet," and you're doing something really gross.
I got 2 episodes in and said no. But.
Yeah, it gets better as it goes on, but I mean, if you abandon it, for me, the look of the show was enough to get me over the hump. Yeah. And by the time you get to the back 9, I really started enjoying it.
I'm never gonna watch this show. You cannot spoil it for me. Say whatever you will.
Impossible.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but listening to your description, I'm not sure I can enjoy the torture scenes if they look like puppets.
Right.
So, I really need to believe that something's in pain while it's being tortured. And
what I really enjoyed though is there is a scene where the puppets do a puppet show. That's pretty cool.
What? No.
Yeah.
But that's meta.
I know.
Meta.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. Let's see. Nobody's seen It Chapter 2 yet.
No.
I'm surprised at you, Rob.
No, I don't like seeing things the first week they come out.
He doesn't like things.
You have to sit next to people.
Yeah, screw that.
Good.
Yep.
It's true. There's actually nothing coming out this weekend, which that's a concern to me because I have a babysitter, so I got to figure out something else to do that's not a movie theater. Oof.
Nice.
So the actress, I believe that she looked like Brea, if the internet is to be believed. So there you go.
Oh, right. I was like, I don't know who that is, but you're talking about I got you.
Yeah, the Gelfling, not the Tarpits.
All right, that is the title for this episode: the Gelfling, not the Tarpits. Yeah.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, that's winning.
What else we got on the Taco Zone?
Oh yeah.
USB 4, which is really USB 3 too, isn't it?
Yeah, USB 4 is coming out, but it's just the updated specs using the same connector.
Well, it's the same connecting ends with higher specs for the wireline capacity.
Yeah, now they're up to Thunderbolt speeds, 40 gigs per second.
Yeah, which is exciting. But so there's a fellow by the name of Benson Leon, I think is his name, and he goes on Amazon and he rates USB devices. And he's like, "This isn't a certified device." And
his stuff is funny.
His stuff, what's his website again?
Benson yells at USB makers,
Well, like, I love the fact that there is a Reddit post that is there an updated Benson Leung USB recommended list? Like, you have reached a new level of fandom when people are like, I don't buy USB cables unless Benson has told me which cable.
I mean, you laugh, but in my house over the course of the last couple of months, we had a whole situation with USB cables and USB ports and the charging of various children's devices. And I've returned a fairly substantial number of cables and USB switches because they don't work.
Yeah. Throw if you get a USB cable with something, and it's not like an Apple or Google product, throw it away. Like, they're garbage.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, even Raspberry Pi couldn't get it right.
I couldn't believe that. That's kind of embarrassing. It was like a sub once. Oh, we talked about this in
we did.
episode. I'm not going to review this again.
We did. That was one of the. Oh, Apple is going to announce something in 2.5 hours. What is our
iPhone 11?
What's that?
They already said they're going to introduce a new iPhone.
Of course, but let's speculate wildly on more interesting things.
It's going to have a display that's actually made from the blood of a dark crystal elf, and that's why it has that weird sort of gooey look, the icon, and it's actually going to render itself in 4 dimensions. The 4th dimension being, of course, food, not time, but food.
So to follow the Dark Crystal theme, maybe it's a new Mystic music service where the Mystics sing all the hits, all popular pop hits, in their nice deep baritone.
The weird throat singing.
I think that we're going to see a competitor to Audible that they call iRead, and kind of like how they failed on ebooks. They're just gonna keep going after their media domain.
Nate, can they please call it iLiterate?
I do think it'll be interesting if they start to say anything about the App Store charges that they're beginning to line up against them. I give it maybe like 6 months before the EU begins the.
I feel like they play it now. If you're not getting antitrust litigation, you're doing it wrong.
It's like a weird measure of success.
Era.
So it's good to know that you have a goal for the Desk Urinal company, which is to dominate the market so thoroughly.
That
You've
they
already got the
bans
patent all locked in, right, Nate?
We just call it DP. No, all right, let's stop.
What? No.
The desk potty.
Partnership between the Desk Urinal and iLiterate. You could have it like detect when you sit down.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the urinal you don't have to stand up. Do you dock with it? I haven't seen the prototype. Do you dock
Well, it's got to be safe for work, right?
Yeah, you have to dock, otherwise it gets messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't squat when you dock of your DP ever in your
DU.
DU.
Our patents will be made public our patent applications will be made public pretty soon. Getting the unzip right was hard. Figuring out how to.
Yeah.
You have no
Although
idea how difficult it is to calculate the kilopascals involved in this process.
I will say the hands-free model is a huge improvement.
Oh yeah, like that's the whole thing.
What are you talking about? So this is so typical. We already have a hands-free model. You just get your pants wet.
My kids have perfected that.
Yeah, I agree. We all have had children.
And then we've been trying to get Dyson to license the drying technology so that it just, you just walk out from the dock and you're fine.
Dyson already has a lot of experience with balls.
So wait, Dyson's licensed it so that you walk out of the room with aerosolized urine everywhere.
So this is why I call them poop atomizers. Basically it takes the poop, and blows it everywhere. And it also damages your hearing. It damages your hearing.
Wow, we got pretty far down the road, didn't we?
Disgusting. Gentlemen, I'm going to put in the goodbye slide. Do you want to say your names?
I want to hear Rob's portentous outcomes. Because remember, Rob woke up this morning and he felt that something bad was going to happen. I wanted to register his suspicion so that if something bad happens, we could say, wow, he was right. But
yeah, I don't know. All morning I've had an impending sense of doom Not like an anxiety thing. I just feel like something terrible is going to happen here.
In your arm, you know,
Like seriously, like old gypsy woman reading the tea leaves, warning me. That kind of doom. So
Well, if you don't
sorry
show up
to all our gypsy listeners.
if you don't show up in the next
Roma.
episode, we'll know that's,
Travelers. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah,
Travelers. That's the Canadian TV show. That's awesome.
I'll let you know on Thursday
All right.
where the
Goodbye,
meteor
everybody.
hit, or how many clowns were in the basement this afternoon, that sort of thing.
the usual terrors.
How many clowns were in the basement? That's a good
It's
autobiography.
supposed to be a promotion for the movie.
Gentlemen, thank you for listening to episode 378 of Geeks in Space. Special thanks to Jake.
Wait, are you trying to hurry us off of the credits card? I feel rushed.
The card was up 5 minutes.
Hi, Jake.
I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Guys.
I gotta go too. I'll see.